Scientists share the human phrases that dogs can actually understand. Most dog owners admit their furry friend is a great listener in times of loneliness. Complain about a coworker or babble nonsense just to vent, and your pooch will be there, paws crossed, tail wagging. It's a shame they don't understand most of what you're saying. Or do they? Scientists wanted to know the difference between dog brains and human brains, specifically which human phrases a canine could truly understand. After crunching the data, these researchers have found the answers and proved why dogs are, in fact, such good boys. The language divide between canine and humans hasn't prevented a bond from forming between the two species. No one who meets a dog is surprised by the common phrase, man's best friend. But are we better at communicating with canines than we expected? People often train their dogs to respond to phrases beyond the accepted sit, stay, and roll over. But these are not the only words a pooch might understand. Even a dog who never saw the inside of an obedience school picks up some new words. As it turns out, canines have a complex relationship with language and the words and phrases used by their human owners. A recent study in the Frontiers of Neuroscience dedicated some time to understanding what exactly Fido knows. These experts knew, of course, that dogs can learn many of the tricks we throw their way, some better than others. But even the most simplistic of canines can manage to sit when given the proper motivation, normally in the form of a treat. So dogs understand our commands on some level. But as the author of the study, Ashley Pritchard, explained, dogs don't process language as humans do. To find out how their brains interacted with words, the experts needed just a few tools. This study required the participation of 12 canines and their respective owners. The task of the owners was to teach their pups to retrieve a stuffed animal monkey appropriately named Monkey, or a rubber pig named Piggy. After months of training, it was finally time to put the dogs to the test. The scientists used an MRI scanner to evaluate the reactions of the dogs' processing systems. There were two parts to the MRI test. The owner would hold up the familiar piggy or monkey and say the familiar name. Then, they would hold up a completely foreign and random object and speak gibberish to their dog. For example, owners held up a hat and said, "Babu." Because the dog in question was in the MRI machine the entire time, experts could observe their mental reactions to both kinds of linguistic situations. Results showed a massive brainwave difference between the two scenarios. When a dog's owner said a phrase that they were familiar with, there was hardly any change in the brain activity at all for the puppy patient. But when the owner used the gibberish term for a random object, the dog exhibited a spike in activity. Experts were dumbfounded. The activity, which was specifically centered in the auditory processing regions of the brain, showed dogs understand language in the opposite way humans do. A similar experiment elaborated on that idea. The study showed humans light up for words we know and less for words we don't. The greater neural activation to pseudo words, gibberish, over the trained words in dogs is different than what is common in human language studies, Pritchard explains. So what does this mean? Due to natural selection, modern domestic dogs are focused on pleasing their owners and receiving rewards based on positive behavior. So they focus on understanding the gibberish word in order to please the human. But this wasn't all the study showed. Another surprising deduction: basic training practices, the guidelines we all work with to train our pooches, might be far from the best way to train your dog. The most effective routes of communication are centered around visual and scent cues. There really needs to be more research on how dogs think and perceive the world, not just how we humans think they do, Pritchard said. The idea of communicating without words seems completely impossible to us, but maybe relying on other senses will have your old dog performing all kinds of new tricks in no time. Nothing is more motivating than the all-powerful treat. So many of us only know the surface details of our pets, their favorite toys and treats, but we don't know what's truly going on in their brains.